Hi, hello, and welcome to LearnStroke IAS classes by Arjun. You're listening to the editorial analysis, the summary for UPSC 2024 examination, and this is current affairs. And class 13, you're with me, Arjun R. Shankar. Let's quickly go on to the important editorials of the day. And here we go to the first important one. Delay as tactic. The center should stick to timelines to avoid friction with the collegium. So this is always happening. So this is important from the perspective of GS paper 2, most important, polity and governance, from the concept of polity and governance. And you see that in this concept you have something called a collegium system. So you should know what you mean by a collegium system. And whenever, whether it is a high court or whenever there is an appointment suggested by the high court, what happens, you can see in this picture the state government here. So what happens is, normal course, you see that the state government does not appoint the judge suggested by the collegium. So collegium suggested judge called X, but X has to be appointed in the high court. But state sometimes and most often you can see it stops the appointment of the new judge. So what happens is, this is something against this creates what is called as friction with judiciary. This is creating something called as a friction with judiciary, and these things has to be taken care. So this is the issue. Let's understand it, apply the IS filter and move on to the important topic here. One is delay in judicial appointments. So Justice Siddharth Mridul as Chief Justice of Manipur High Court, which was recommended by a collegium on July 5. We are discussing it in October. July 5 it was recommended. The delay was attributed to the state government's prolonged review. So the state government has given a very big review, which was seen as unusual, and they have not appointed the judge. So that shows, again, it goes against the judiciary or the collegium system. And the government's response to collegium recommendation. The government is criticized for its selective treatment of recommendations made by the collegium. It has returned names for reconsideration and in some cases delayed or ignored appointments, creating friction with the judiciary. So what is the government doing here? It is alleged that it is doing selective treatment and returned names for reconsideration. If you do not like the names, you give them a reconsideration. So all these things are not good, because when a collegium has given the recommendations, a friction with judiciary is not the right thing to do. So this is the view that has been given. And you should know what you mean by collegium system, which is the body of senior judges in India responsible for recommending appointments, the transfers, elevations of judges in the higher judiciary, particularly in the high courts and Supreme Court. So the collegium system in India, you should know what you mean by the collegium system. So this collegium system is not, sometimes you can see states which are going against this. So this is how we should actually find out. So, and the next important points is, what is the government role inside this? The central government in approving or delaying judicial appointments is a key point of discussion. So the editorial suggests that the government has at times shown reluctance or selective treatment in implementing the recommendation made by the collegium. So this is even the governments at different central government or the state governments, we can see they often are reluctant to appoint the persons, or they do selective treatment. So this is a conflict between the government and the judiciary, which should not happen in a democracy like India. So the conflict and friction between government and the judiciary, particularly the collegium, are emphasized. And there is also a challenge in maintaining a harmonious relationship between two branches of Indian legal system. So we need to create what? A harmony needs to be created between the government and the judiciary. And also it talks about judicial appointments. What this again talks about an important thing called timeline. It is not that you can do anything. There should be a timeline that should be kept. So a timeline set by the Supreme Court to avoid disputes and ensure smooth functioning of the judicial system. So we should be ready with the judicial appointments in a timeline. It's not that you can recommend it, appoint them later, but you have to follow the timeline. That is very, very important in this case. And next is you can say reiterated decision. What is that? The collegium reiterates a recommendation. It should be binding on the government. So the concept of reiterated decisions. So whatever be things, the collegium once has given the important verdicts for appointment of judges, that should be binding on the government. Government should follow that. And what about ethnic violence and legal decisions? So it also talks about Justice M.V. Muralidharan and its possible connection to ethnic violence in. So it's a legal decision made. It's a legal decision made by Justice M.V. Muralidharan, relating to ethnic violence in Manipur, highlighting the broader importance of judicial decisions in sensitive areas. So the judicial decisions, even in the sensitive area. So basically, understand judicial decisions can be very important. So whether it can create a sensitive thing or not, it has to be taken seriously. So Supreme Court also mentions from an order in April 21 that sets specific like timeline. So again, I'm talking about the concept of timeline. The timeline has to be kept. The collegium, once imagine that this is the collegium, and once the collegium recommends that appointment should be made, and that should be reiterated decision, is that should be binding on the government. Government should follow that. So this is the brief summary of this editorial that we have discussed right now. And let's check some questions. What is the collegium system in India, and how does it play a significant role in the appointment and transfer of judges within the higher judiciary? So one is what and how does it play a significant role? So please try to answer this. And what are some of the key criticisms associated with the collegium system of judicial appointments in India? What are some of the criticisms? This is one of the criticisms that we have discussed. So please find out. And moving on to the next important editorial of the day, the Indian Himalayan regions needs its own EIA. So this clearly brings environmental impact assessment. So this is very important from the perspective of GS paper 3, environment, conservation, biodiversity. So it's very clear that when you take IHR, what is IHR? IHR is nothing but the Indian Himalayan region needs its own environmental impact assessment. See, we have an area called Himalaya. So what happens is there is another area which is called X. So it all depends upon the developmental activities that we create here. So the developmental activities that we are triggering here. Say this is a place in Mumbai. Imagine that this is a place in Mumbai. So a developmental activity that is happening in Mumbai is not the way that developmental activity happen in sensitive ecological important area of Himalaya or IHR, because it's a mountainous area. It is having its own ecological impact, ecological diversity. So we have to give importance to the development area. That is where EIA, an environmental impact assessment, is very clear. That is the reason why. Let's check out the editorial in detail and let's find out more. Apply the IAS filter and let's check out the points. So what are the environmental impact of development in mountain regions? So you know that the topography are entirely different. So there is an adverse environmental consequences of development projects in mountain areas, like a Tista dam breach in Sikkim. You know that it has created the GLOF. What is a GLOF? Where we already discussed in the previous editorial. Tista dam breach in Sikkim has created the GLOF, the glacier. Find out what do you mean by that. We have already discussed that in detail. And the recent floods and landslide in Himachal Pradesh. So all the mountainous areas, you can see EIA and environmental impact assessment is a systematic process used to evaluate the potential environmental, social, and economic consequences of a proposed project before they are executed. That is very important. If this is the area, if this is the development that is going to come here, we have to do a proper EIA to mention what is going to be the environmental, that is one, environmental, social, economical consequences of this. So that has to be studied. If you do not study this, Tista Dam issue and the issue of landslide in Himachal Pradesh will come again. So it emphasizes EIA as a tool to evaluate the environmental, social, and economic effects of projects before they are undertaken. So the role of EIA in predicting and mitigating environmental impact is also very important. So you can trace the history of EIA from the beginning of 1970s to its subsequent amendments in 2006. Now it has decentralized the process and gave state government authority to issue environmental clearance or EC. So now it is clear from the 1970s the history of environmental impact assessment from 2006, when it gave its amendment, when it decentralized that environmental clearance. State government do not wait for the central. The state governments can actually give the environmental clearance for the projects, but it's important to have that. So this is again a neglect of IHR. The Indian Himalayan region is the neglect. So a major flaw that can be seen is the neglect. It's a very vulnerable region, IHR. It has got its own ecological impact. So IHR is treated similarly to other regions in the country despite its unique challenge and ecological importance. So always understand, Himalaya is not like Bombay, Himalaya is not like Jaipur, or Himalaya is not like Allahabad. So Himalaya is definitely different in its ways. So you have to treat them separately. And a graded approach. So when you do an EIA, you need to have a graded approach. So this is a new word. You can use this in mains answer also. An EIA, when you have an EIA, make sure you have a graded approach. See, such vocabularies will definitely increase your marks in the mains examination. Graded approach. And the IHR should have a specific environmental standards taking into account the ecological fragility. So graded approach should be there in IHR in Himalayan region. And a lack of a national regulator and a bias. So there is no national regulator to independently assess and approve projects for environmental clearance. So that is also a problem. In India, we don't have a national regulator to do environmental clearance as recommended by the Supreme Court. So EIA process often favors project proponents since they finance it. So it is also noted that they are not considered. And again, you should also have a strategic environmental impact assessment to address the IHR. More comprehensive policy is needed. So all these are the same points you need to have. One is neglect. Do not neglect. Treat IHR separately. Have a graded approach. This is the second point. And there is no national level regulator. That is the third point. And more comprehensive policies should be there in ecologically sensitive areas like IHR. So remember the important points. Very important for the exam. So what are some of the questions? How has development in mountain regions like the Indian Himalayan region led to environmental challenges? What is the role and significance of environmental impact assessment process in evaluating environmental effects of developmental projects? Why is the neglect of specific needs and vulnerabilities of Indian Himalayan region in the EIA process considered a major concern? So please do check out all these areas, and let's quickly move on to the next important editorial. It's confronting the long-term risk of artificial intelligence. So definitely we know that you can read it from the perspective of GS paper 3, Science and Technology and Advancements in Science and Technology. So you know that the AI is going to lead the human in 360-degree format. In various things that we do, technology, AI is going to disrupt everything, your human life, the world, etc. So while doing it, what are some of the short-term risks? Definitely it has got its own risks involved in this. So what are the short risks and the long-time risks associated with all these things is something that we have to discuss. So let's quickly apply the IAS filter and get the important points right away. So evolution of risk in the age of technology. So risk is definite with technological and advancements. The society is changing, and the AI risk in digital age. So definitely there is going to be a big time risk involved in this. So what is the long-term risk of AI? So you should see that ensuring AI functions properly in daily tasks, while long-term concerns consist of AI and the blend of biotechnology. So this is also something that we need to do. So how is AI functioning in the daily life is going to be a long-term challenge. So especially when you can see AI and biotechnology is going to be integrated. So how are we going to work on that? So please look out the long term. And what about the other AI risk? It includes possibility of AI systems disrupting the critical infrastructure and posing in existential threats. So it's definitely, you know, that the human life, when you use AI in a 360-degree perspective, it is also again affecting us in all the ways, right from the way you use it. So make sure in daily task, AI in daily task, we should be very, very cautious because it can disrupt the critical infrastructure. It is capable of doing that. And the challenges, the human level AI is another important problem, because the human level AI is often outperforming, the word is outperforming human cognitive abilities. AI is outperforming the human abilities. So the rapid advance in AI, how is it going to align with the human values and the potential consequences? So definitely it is going to outperform the human ability. So how is it going to affect the human values? So that is also another perspective of AI's uses. Daily life, how is it going to affect human values? Lack of a global approach. There is a big time lack of a global approach to regulating AI. As you can see, there is no such international regulations, as different countries adopt their own strategies. This lack of coordination may lead to imbalance in AI development, because you do not have a global regulation. Every country is doing it in their own. And again, the military dangers, because you should see that military is the last thing where we need to have AI coming in, because the military AI is actually emphasizing on the international collaboration to establish global norms. So what are the global norms, the treaties that will actually prevent a nuclear and chemical weapon warfare? Because when you use AI in military, how is it going to ensure that there is no nuclear fallout, there is no chemical weapons fallout? We have to be very clear on that. So AI, we should actually shape the future, take through responsible choices and AI risk. You can say importance of shaping the future through responsible choices regarding AI risk. So this is also something that we have to understand in this context. So let's get some important questions. What are the immediate and the long-term risk associated with AI, and why are they significant? So bring out the human values, human standards, military, all the problems. How does the lack of a unified global approach to AI regulation potentially impact international peace and security in the context of AI development? So all the points that you write here can be done, because we need to have an international global approach or a regulation. Okay, so that is it regarding the next is regarding GS paper. GS paper 2, you can mark it from welfare of different communities in India, the legal aspects. But let me tell you, make it very clear that this article is from a political aspect. This article talks largely about political aspect, especially the politics of BJP and the India alliance, which is going to come. But I'm not going to go into the political aspect. I would love to address two important aspects. One is the community called Dalits, the emancipation of Dalits and the marginalized community, and the important issue of Adivasis. So this is something that I have to discuss. So one thing that you have to understand in this editorial is simple. In next election is definitely going to be you can see it's BJP versus the INDIA alliance. So it's simply, let's forget about the names of the party, but it's not important for civil services. But imagine that it's an important for polity and governance, because two political parties are going to contest. The article completely talks that the contribution of SC/STs, the contribution of SC/ST or Dalit community in this party or in this election as a part of the contest or part of the election is very low. The participation of Dalits has become low. That is the only concern this the article talks about. So let's apply the IS filter. Let's take two, three important points and let's leave out the politics. Okay, I hope this is clear. So let's talk about the India alliance, and you can see it lacks significant representation from major Dalit politic parties, which raises questions about its social justice. So what is the principle of social justice in election? So let's forget the parties. So Dalit political parties are not coming forward, and they're not included much in this. Is this what editorial says? And you can say that the history of Dalit politics in India, they should actually stand for the marginalized community in India. So Dalit party should definitely come forward, and the Dalit parties played a crucial role in Indian politics. Their influence has declined. The Dalit parties' influence has declined in the recent years. So this is again an important food for thought. And the Adivasi political. But in contrast, you can see Dalit parties have gone down, but the Adivasi or indigenous tribal groups have often maintained stronger presence in Indian politics. So in Indian politics, Dalit parties have, the influence has gone down, but the Adivasi or indigenous people have contributed more in the Indian politics, better than SC/STs. So that is something good. So that the article simply said we need to have more participation from all this. So just wanted to tell you from the two important points from that. Next is regarding no dengue epicenter so far in 2023. So this brings us regarding GS paper 2 health. This article is very important from the perspective of GS paper 2 health, and it talks about dengue. What is dengue? Let's apply the IAS filter and let's get the points quickly. Here we go. What is dengue? Get the basics right. So dengue is a mosquito-borne viral infection that causes a range of symptoms from mild to severe, and it can be life-threatening. It's caused by dengue virus, so always understand it's a viral infection. It's caused by a virus. Such questions are often asked in the UPSC prelims exam. So it is transmitted to humans primarily through the bite of infected female Aedes mosquito, particularly the Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. So please remember Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. It's very prevalent across the world, but you can see Southeast Asia, Pacific Islands, Caribbean, Central and South America. You can see the issue of dengue spreading. So let's check the article and get the statistics right. It's got some statistics. So high dengue cases and deaths in India in 2023. So you can see that close to 95,000 cases were reported in India. And until September 17, you can see over 90 deaths happened. So 95,000 observations and almost 100 deaths happening. So you can see this is the dengue statistics. Unusual spread of dengue cases. So unlike previous year, dengue was actually concentrated on specific regions. That is the key. And now it is spread out across many states in India. It is spread out. So this is something that we have to check out. And the historical pattern of dengue case burden. How in previous year different regions of India experienced disproportionately. So you can say disproportionately high dengue cases in different years with no clear pattern. There is no clear pattern. It is actually spreading out quickly. And in 2023, you can see Kerala and Karnataka in the south have recorded highest number of cases, followed by Maharashtra in the west, Odisha in the east, Uttar Pradesh in the north, and Assam in the northeast. So Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra in the west, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, and Assam in the northeast. So this is the tally. And over 15 period, 2008 to 2022, West Bengal has the highest share of dengue cases, followed by Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. So you take a 15-year average, you will see West Bengal leads in that, followed by Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. So such statistics are also very important for prelims examination. They'll ask you that this state is leading in this. Maharashtra has recorded the most dengue-related deaths in the 15-year period. So these are the important thing, but Maharashtra has seen more number of deaths, followed by Punjab and even Kerala. So please remember the statistics. And what about Chhattisgarh? You can say death rate per 1 lakh dengue cases. That means there is 1 lakh, how many deaths? Chhattisgarh had disproportionately high death rate compared to its share of dengue cases, indicating poor disease management. So 1 lakh death rate in 1 lakh. So Chhattisgarh is having disproportionately high. Haryana and Madhya Pradesh also had higher death rates despite lower case burdens. So what is the variability in medical certified deaths? So cautions only that only 22% of dengue-related deaths in India were medically certified. There were significant variations in this metric across different states. So please do check out all the important aspects of the statistics that we are trying to tell you in this. And let's check two important questions. What are the common symptoms of dengue fever and how does it differ from the severe forms of the disease? How is the dengue virus primarily transmitted to humans and what measures can be taken to prevent the dengue infection? So these are the important analysis of today's editorial, and please do subscribe to our channel, LearnStroke IAS classes by Arjun. Keep watching the sessions, share it with the UPSC preparing friends, and please text us, messages for any course and related inquiries. We'll be very happy to help you. So keep listening and keep watching the classes. Thank you.